What's going on, everyone? Jay here, and I am back with another tier maker ranking, this time looking at Capcom's releases on the Super Nintendo. Let's take a look. Okay, as a refresher, one of the things I do with my ranking videos is what I call a pre-ranking, where I essentially look at the games from a particular publisher or from a particular game like I did with my Street Fighter ranker, and I rank them based fully on my nostalgia for when I played them as a kid. Or, as is the case with some games, I just never played them. So I base my ranking fully upon what I've heard of the game, the box art, or just screenshots and articles I remember seeing. And after that, nostalgia gets kicked firmly under the bus, and I play all these games again as an adult and give you my current impressions of them from where they are today. Also, a clarity on F-ranked games. Think of this like a grade school grade. Sometimes you're going to have a 0, sure, it's just going to be completely broken, and sometimes it's just not fun. I've had some confusion where folks think that when I give a game an F, I mean it's broken and unplayable, and that's just not the case. It just means it doesn't measure up to me. And your mileage may vary, and I encourage you to do your own rankings of these games based on the link in the description below. So here's the pre-rankings starting at the bottom. In our F rank, we have Capcom's Soccer Shootout and Capcom's MVP Football. In the D rank, we have Disney's Bonkers. C rank brings us Goof Troop, D&D Eye of the Beholder, King of the Dragons, Magic Sword, and Super Buster Brothers. B rank brings Final Fight, Circus Mystery starring Mickey Mouse, Marvel's Superheroes and War of the Gems, Mega Man Soccer, the OG Street Fighter II, UN Squadron, Wizardry 5, and X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. Our A rank has Breath of Fire 2, Captain Commando, Demon's Crest, Final Fight 2, Final Fight Guy, Mega Man 7, Mega Man X, Mega Man X3, Saturday Night Slam Masters, and Street Fighter II Turbo. And our Kings and Queens of the Mountain S-tier rankings give us Aladdin, Final Fight 3, Knights of the Round, Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse, Mega Man X2, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, and Super Street Fighter II, The New Challengers. Up first, we have Bonkers, and this is yet another Disney game from Capcom. And this one's, it's not bad. It's not good. For full disclosure, it's not a good game. It's just not a bad game. It's decidedly average. Now, I had never heard of Bonkers. I don't remember this game. I don't remember the animated series it was based on, although you can view it now on Disney+, shameless plug. And, it's just okay. There's some weird mechanics with the dashing and stuff like that. The animations and the art style aren't really great. They're just kind of there. But it does what it does pretty well. It's not a bad game. C. As a huge fan of JRPGs, I really expected to see Breath of Fire 2 rank as an A rank or even an S tier when I finally went back and played it as an adult, but I gotta be honest, something's just not clicking for me, and I'm not sure what it is because the graphics in the game are solid, the music is fantastic, the gameplay mechanics are really good. Just something's not working for me. It might be a case if it's just a story that connects to me more when I was a child than I am as an adult, and that's fine, things change. It's still good, don't get me wrong, it's definitely above average game. I give it a B, but I was just really hoping for it to be higher in the rankings. Here's one that surprised me. I'm not a huge soccer fan. I appreciate the sport, but it's not really my favorite thing, so I didn't expect Capcom's Soccer Shootout to be anything over an F. I really expected this to be terrible. And it's not bad. It's not FIFA. It doesn't have the polish of the FIFA series. I will say that right up front. And it's decidedly generic. It's just kind of like vaporous countries that you play as opposed to Tottenham Hotspur or anything like that, or West Ham United. You just get Cameroon and Japan, and that's totally okay. It's surprisingly average for something that I expected to be awful. I'm really pleased to say that Capcom Soccer Shootout gets a C. Okay, so I love Captain Commando, the good and the bad of this game. This is one I used to play together regularly with my friends on Friday nights. This is one of our warm-up games as a teen and early 20-something for our Friday Night Fights contest that we would do, where we play all kinds of crazy fighting games. And this was just something that we'd all play together and just have a blast with it. And I've got a special place in my heart for Captain Commando, and I always will. Even though when I go back as an adult and I play it and I go, yeah, there's definitely some flaws here. Captain Commando is one of my favorites. It's something I will always adore and always love, but it's a B. It's just above average. It's not perfect. It's not great. It's just a very good game. Demon's Crest is so good. Okay, this is okay. I have to calm down now. This is one of my favorite SNES games, and there are flaws in it. It's not a perfect game, but it is so good. I love Demon's Crest. I think this is just a wonderful continuation of the Gargoyle's Quest series. I love the controls in the game. I love the fact that you get to play as one of the bad guys from Ghosts and Goblins and Ghouls and Ghosts, and it's just so cool. It has a great look. It's got a great feel. The music is fantastic. Now, the wall clinging kind of sucks, and the flight mechanic is a little weird, but the game itself is just marvelous. I love Demon's Crest. This is so close to perfect. On another day, it might get an S tier, but today it is an A tier. Okay, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Eye of the Beholder. God, I wanted you to be great. I'm a huge D&D fan. I love D&D. This game sucks. It's so bad. It's not broken. It's definitely playable, but it's not fun. It's a poor design for the Super Nintendo. It does not translate well to being navigated with a controller. It's just not good. Eye of the Beholder gets an F. There can be an argument made that the Genesis version of Disney's Aladdin is better than the Super Nintendo version, and I would say that you're probably right. But that does not change the fact that Disney's Aladdin is a near-perfect game. Absolutely gorgeous visuals, phenomenal animations, wonderful music, great character design, fantastic combat mechanics, cool physics when you're doing flips and stuff like that. It's truly a marvelous game. This is our first S rank. I adore Disney's Aladdin. It strikes me that in the world of beat-em-up games, you are either a Final Fight person or a Streets of Rage person, and I was decidedly a Streets of Rage person. But that didn't mean I didn't like Final Fight. I loved Final Fight. I thought it was fantastic as a kid. I think it's a fantastic game as an adult. Now, there's definitely some rough spots to the game. It's a little bit slow, the combat's a little funky in places, but that's being super nitpicky with a game that is now 30 years old. It's solid, it's fun, it looks good, plays good, and sounds good, and that's really all you can ask for from a beat-em-up. I give Final Fight an A. And where Streets of Rage 2 excelled, Final Fight 2 kind of falls back a little bit to me, it feels like. There's just something weird about this one. I'm not entirely sure what it is. Like, it's faster, and I think maybe that's what it is, because there was something kind of signature about the more meticulous nature of the first Final Fight game. This one's a little bit faster, and the combat just feels a little bit looser. Like, it's not as tight a game as the first one is. It's still good. It's definitely not a bad game, but it's not to the level of the first one. I give Final Fight 2 a B. And Final Fight 3 is kind of more of the same. Like, it's still faster, it's still a little bit too loose, it doesn't quite have things dialed in as well as the first Final Fight game did. And it's still fun, it's still a very good game, it's just not quite to the level that I would expect for the Final Fight series after what was presented in the first game. Final Fight 3 also gets a B. Okay, so literally everything I said about Final Fight 1 can be applied to Final Fight Guy, because they are honestly the same game. Like, it just swaps Cody for Guy. So if you really like Final Fight 1, like I do, you really like Final Fight Guy. Final Fight Guy gets an A. Goof Troop surprised me. I had never played this game before I played it for this ranking video. It's remarkable. Like, I didn't pay the series much mind as a kid. Like, I had kind of aged past it at this point. I was 14 when it released, and I just didn't pay much attention to it. So I didn't know anything about this game. I expected it to be kind of a crappy platformer, and what I got was Kickle Cubicle on steroids, kinda. It's a puzzle action game where you have bad guys that you can defeat by kicking blocks at them or throwing barrels and things like that. I don't know. It's really well done. I think the animations are great. The music's good. It's a shockingly good game. I give Goof Troop a B. And this one's weird. Great Circus Mystery starring Mickey and Minnie was something I expected to kind of be of the level of the Genesis Mickey Mouse games, but it doesn't quite get there. Honestly, it's pretty generic. Like, there's nothing really memorable about it. It's just kind of existing. I mean, it looks good and it sounds pretty good, but it is a very generic average platformer. I give it a C. Oh man, I love King of Dragons. Okay, so this is one of my favorite games on the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle on the Switch, and I really like the Super Nintendo version. Now, it is not the one-to-one arcade port that you get on the Switch. There's definitely some sacrifices made, but it's still a really solid medieval beat 'em up. King of Dragons is really cool. This is kind of what I would have hoped Eye of the Beholder was, honestly, and that game fell flat on its face. You could have slapped the Dungeons & Dragons license on this one and made mint. King of Dragons is fantastic. It gets a B. Man, much as I love King of Dragons, Knights of the Round does everything right. This is a near perfect game. Like, the only thing keeping this away from being an S rank is the fact that the levels are kind of short and some of the boss enemies are pretty cheap. But this is a really great game. You play as Lancelot, Percival, or Arthur, and it's a beat 'em up where you just go around and beat the hell out of bad guys. It's really fun. I love Knights of the Round. I think it's really close to being a perfect game, but it doesn't quite get there. It is an A rank. Man, 2 games in a row featuring sword and sorcery, and I got really excited for Magic Sword, thinking I was going to get something great, and instead I got, boy howdy, one of the most generic action platformers ever. It's fine. Like, it doesn't fall flat on its face. There's definitely some redeeming qualities here. I think it's kind of neat that you get a filthy assistant to help you out, but it's not fun. It's just not a great game. Magic Sword to me is really close to an F, but because there are at least some good ideas in play here, I am gonna give it a D. Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse is kind of the same thing as the Great Circus Mystery, where it's just kind of, It's a really average platformer. Like, there's nothing it does particularly well. There's nothing it does particularly poorly. It's decidedly average. There's nothing really memorable about the game to me, and that's kind of a shame because I love the Genesis Mickey Mouse games so much. Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse, much like Great Circus Mystery, gets a C. I had really hoped that Marvel Superheroes and War of the Gems was going to be a great game, and it kind of gets halfway there. Like, there's some really good ideas in play here. I like that there's different levels for each character. I think that was kind of clever. I like the inclusion of different characters. There's a nice variety of gameplay styles, but it just kind of doesn't quite get there. Like, like Wolverine here, like he's got a weird ostrich neck, and that kind of bugs me. And the game is just kind of generic. Like, I'm noticing that is kind of a repeating pattern with some of the licensed stuff from Capcom. Is it's kind of generic. It's not bad, it's not good, it's just kind of here. War of the Gems gets a C. One day I'm going to go back and I'm just going to do a tier ranker of every Mega Man game because Lord knows I love them enough and I know them well enough, but Mega Man 7 here is a wonderful game. It doesn't quite have the same charm and magic of the NES versions of Mega Man, but it's decidedly good. This is a fantastically fun game, and it's so close to perfect. There's some weirdness that just kind of takes you out of it. Like, the intro of the game takes forever. Being stuck on the truck and just having to sit through cutscenes is really kind of boring. Like, it's Mega Man. I just want to jump in and go. I don't want to be stuck here listening to dialogue. Just let me play. So yeah, that kind of took me out of it a little bit, and it's something that's bugged me for years and still bugs me to this day. It's a nearly perfect game. It doesn't quite get there. Mega Man 7, however, is an A rank. So I discovered Mega Man Soccer in the early 2000s on ROM sites and thought this has got to be some kind of a hack, but no, it's legit. It's a real game. And it's weird, and it's wonderful, and it's so much fun. It plays so well. Like, this, I should have seen this coming when I played Soccer Shootout and was like, holy crap, this is actually good. Mega Man Soccer is a good soccer game. It's really cool that you can set your lineup and you can switch out what robots you want to have at like midfield and in goal. It's really clever. I really enjoy this game. Like, it's not perfect. It's definitely, again, much like Soccer Shootout, it isn't as deep as the FIFA games. It's not as polished as those games, but it's still fun. And the absurdity of playing soccer with Mega Man pushes this up to a B. Alright, I won't lie, when I was a kid and the Mega Man X series came out, it kind of broke my heart a little bit that they were moving away from the classic Mega Man series. But I came around on it pretty quick because it's, let's face it, they're fantastic games. There's just something magical about this series. All of the Mega Man X games are really good. None of them quite get to perfect. There's definitely something, like it just misses that charm for me. Like there's something from those formative games of Mega Man's 1, 2, 3, and 4 that I played as a kid that just really connected to me. and Mega Man X doesn't quite get there. So while it's really close to being an S, it doesn't quite take that final step. Mega Man X, though, is a solid A rank. Mega Man X2 does what Mega Man X did and does it just as well. Like, it's not a huge step up over Mega Man X, and it's not a step back by any stretch of the imagination. The game is solid, it looks good, it plays good, it sounds good, and it's fun. Again, it's an A rank. And not to sound too much like a broken record, but same thing for Mega Man X3. It's another solid entry in the series. This was definitely a case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They stuck with what works, and they made a great game. It's an A rank. So I have to admit, when Capcom Soccer Shootout surprised me and it became a shockingly fun soccer game, I kind of expected Capcom's NFL MVP football to follow the same path and be a halfway decent football game, but it's bad. Where Soccer Shootout doesn't have the polish of FIFA because it doesn't have the teams, MVP football has all the NFL teams. It just doesn't have any of the good gameplay. If I take the time to compare it to the Madden games of the same generation in the same time frame, it just falls flat on its face. MVP football is an F. It's not fun to play at all. I remember adoring Saturday Night Slam Masters when I was a kid because I'm a huge pro wrestling fan, and this was such a cool game when I was a kid. I loved it. And I go back and play it as an adult, and it is really, really average. Like, this is the most bland beat 'em up. It doesn't really have the kind of charm I remember it having when I was a kid. Like, it doesn't feel bigger than life. It feels like a boring beat 'em up. It's not bad, it's just not very good. Saturday Night Slam Masters gets a C. Okay, before anyone writes in and tells me how wrong I am about my ranking for Street Fighter II, understand that this is the original Street Fighter II, the OG release. This is the one that doesn't have any of the turbo, so it's not a fast game. It's a very slow, kind of a plodding, kind of methodical game. Street Fighter II is good. It opened up the world to the universe of Street Fighter II, and that is something I can never thank it enough for. But if you think for 1 second that this ranks anywhere over a B, you're nuts. Now, Street Fighter II Turbo, not only does it introduce more characters, but it also makes the game faster and more fun to play, and adds a little bit of a challenge where you actually have to think quicker as opposed to just kind of making it a chess match like the first Street Fighter II game. Street Fighter II Turbo is fantastic. It is an A rank. I really didn't know what Super Buster Brothers was going to be based on the box art. I never saw this game, never played this game, never heard of this game. And the generic box art of two kids with possibly pistols, probably water guns if I had to be honest, shooting balloons, I didn't know what the hell to expect. And I got a fairly clever little puzzle game here. Like, it's kind of cheap, and the physics of the balls bouncing around kind of sucks at times, but the game's better than it has any right to be. It's average, it's not great. Super Buster Brothers gets a C, but that's much better than I thought it was going to be. Alright, here we go with Super Ghouls and Ghosts, and if you guys saw my Capcom NES rankings, you know how much I despise Ghosts and Goblins, which you should know by now that does not reflect on Super Ghouls and Ghosts, because Super Ghouls and Ghosts is wonderful. This is one of the best platformers on the Super Nintendo. It is insanely difficult. If you want to see something impressive, go watch John Hancock's challenge, where he beats the first level without taking damage, which I can't even get to, like, the first bad guy without taking damage 90% of the time. I suck at Super Ghouls and Ghosts, but I love it. The game is wonderful. It's incredibly difficult, incredibly fun to play, wonderful style, wonderful music, great look, great sound, great gameplay. It gets an S rank. Super Street Fighter II is wonderful. This is the game that really pushed Street Fighter II to the next level. This is the one where we get Cammy, DJ, Fei Long, and T-Hawk. The game, just based on the intro alone that you're going to see right here, this puts it above the other Street Fighter entries in the series on the Super NES. This game is absolutely wonderful. Super Street Fighter II gets an S rank. I didn't know quite what to expect from UN Squadron by looking at the box art. This isn't something I had played as a kid, but it's pretty cool. Like, I expected kind of a Top Gun game, and what I got was a side-scrolling shooter like Gradius, and that's pretty awesome. I love the mechanics of having different characters you can pick. I love being able to buy your weapons in between levels. I think that's pretty cool. Some of the gameplay is a little frustrating, and it definitely shows its age. Like, this is a 30-year-old game at this point, so there's definitely some quality of life improvements that have been made in games like this since then that I'm kind of missing, but the game itself is really fun. It's not perfect. It's definitely above average. I give UN Squadron a B. Alright, so Wizardry 5 is a dungeon crawler, and I don't really have a ton to say about it because the game just isn't that memorable. Like, it plays fine, and it looks fine. The combat's okay. It's just not a terribly memorable game. Like, I played it earlier today, and I'm having trouble talking about it and kind of articulating what my experience was, because it's just kind of there. It's not an F. It doesn't fail. Like, what it does, it works. It does it fine. It's just not a terribly enjoyable game, so I'm going to put it at a D. Alright, and finally we come to X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. Kind of in the same vein as Marvel Superheroes War of the Gems. You have different characters you can choose from. You go to different levels. There's different combat mechanics for each character. Beast can walk on the ceiling. Gambit throws cards, etc., etc. It's a fine game. I think it's a little bit more polished than War of the Gems was, so I am going to rank this one just a little bit ahead of it at a B. Alright, so there you have it. My thoughts on all 33 games published by Capcom and released on the Super Nintendo. Some absolute magic here, and while I had less S-ranked games than I'd anticipated, I honestly think this is one of the strongest lineups on the SNES outside of Nintendo themselves. I was being particularly picky with my grades today. Tomorrow, games like Demon's Crest or Mega Man X could have easily seen their way to the top ranks. But now, as always, I want to hear from you and get your opinion on this. What games are S ranks for you from Capcom on the SNES? And what games are failures? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a thumbs up down below. And if you are new to the channel and haven't done so already and enjoy this kind of nonsense, be sure to subscribe as we're doing 2 videos a week. And while you're there, ring that notification bell so you can stay up to date with every video we have coming out. Until next time, guys, I've been Jay. I thank you for spending a little bit of time with me. Be sure to play old games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk with you soon.